Good morning. Good morning. This is Biniam on the Checkin In podcast. Welcome to today's episode. My name is Biniam. This is the 54th episode of the Checkin In podcast. Welcome to all my friends who are coming in. I see some of you who I haven't seen for a long time. King Copper, wonderful to see you again. Today is July. So September the 15th, halfway through September already, and I don't know how that happened. That happened so fast. September 15th today, 54th episode of the Checkin In podcast, and I'm delighted to have you guys join in for a few moments today. This is the podcast where I love celebrating three key things, and I want to do that with you as we do it together. Some are giving love to the beard. Thank you so much. It's been a while since anyone has mentioned that. I appreciate that. Yes, so today's episode, like other episodes, we focus on three key pillars. I call them pillars of what we want to grow in our ability to acknowledge. And that is number one, awareness of ourselves, awareness of who we are, how we're made up, where we're going in life, what makes us us, our identity in essence. Number two, we want to talk about kindness. Now, I know one of the characteristics that people often experience when they interact with me is kindness. But I'm not talking about kindness to others here. I'm talking more specifically kindness to ourselves. I think this is a really necessary prerequisite before we start expressing love and kindness towards others. It needs to start off with ourselves, and I can't give you today's question as a result of that point. Thirdly, I like happiness. I like being happy. I like growing in my experience of happiness. I want to share what that looks like for me with you guys, and how I would encourage you guys to also pursue your happiness. I think this is really important too. And so that is another key component to be certain. So those are the three pillars that make up our time here on the Checkin In podcast as we ask self-reflection questions. So glad to have you here up for the 54th episode on the Checkin In podcast. Really appreciate these, like you guys who are here regularly. I love seeing your consistency. It's beautiful. I love being able to build some rapport with you guys. Some of you guys are here on a daily basis whenever I'm coming on. And so I'm so thankful for you guys making the time to spend time with me this way. I'm doing this first and foremost for myself because I want to get to be a better version of me and what that looks like. I think these are disciplines, if I can call it that. It's TikTok live stream, Instagram, YouTube live. Why do you do that? TikTok live, Instagram live, YouTube live. I do that because there's a few different people who prefer the different platforms. So there's some who stick primarily on Instagram. There's some who are primarily on TikTok. And then there's those who access it on YouTube. The YouTube and the Instagram are my ways of featuring this recording so I can actually post it after the recording's over. For those who can't make it, then they can listen afterwards or in perpetuity, which means they can listen, a year from now, 10 years from now, they can come back and watch it still. So even though it's live, it also goes across by way of recording and people can still access it. So that's why I do what I do there. Thanks for the question, though. That's a good question. So, yes, what was I saying? I was saying something along the lines of appreciating you guys who come in consistently because first I do this for myself. And as I do this for myself, this takes a lot of work, doesn't it? It takes a lot of work for us to be intentional about becoming better versions of ourselves. This is not an easy endeavor. It's not the kind of thing that is just natural for most of us, right? And in so doing it, part of that element that I think I want to make it more regular is it's my way of saying I want to live life intentionally. I don't want to coast through life. I don't want to sort of look back by way of memory and say, how did we get here? What happened along the way? I want to be able to say I was able to keep track of my progress along the way. Just the same way as bankers do when they look at their bank accounts. And just the same way as athletes do when they're watching their time frames, they're like saying, hey, how can I get better at this? It doesn't happen by chance. It happens by intention. And so they're very specific on how do I get to be better at whatever it is I'm doing. And for me, I'm driven by how can I become a better human being? And how can I inspire and encourage others who are coming alongside me to also be better human beings? Because as we commit to being better human beings, what tends to happen is we we developed this fantastic community that spreads so much goodness in our context wherever we are, and that is inspiring. You know what it's like when you meet someone that is so they just seem to have things well put together. They seem to have a really good beat on life. They have a really fantastic assessment or outlook on how things ought to be. That is what I want to be a part of. That kind of energy, that kind of input in one's life that says, hey, we mean business when we get together. We mean business when we do life together. And it happens because we're growing in number one, awareness of ourselves. Two, kindness towards ourselves as we grow to becoming better. And number three, we're experiencing massive happiness because we make space for it inside of us in the way that we process a lot of things. I haven't even mentioned what today's question is, my friends. Today's question, listen carefully, is what does self-love mean to you? What does self-love mean to you? Can't wait to share this. Can't wait to hear your insights on this. By the way, I say I'd love to hear your insights just because I don't have it all together. I can only see so far. I can only experience so far. But in my reach of how far I can see and experience, I want to do that in community. I want to do that alongside you guys. I want you guys to come alongside me and say, hey, here's how I've perceived or grown through or learned from this experience. And as I hear your guys' assessments too, I feel the richer for the experience because goodness, I am not the one who's going to stand in front of you and say, I got it all figured out. I don't. But I'll share with you as far as I do. There's some things I've been able to put together in life that have become my non-negotiables where I'm like, this is very important for me. And this is why I invest or become a part of this. And so that's why I am so thrilled to have you guys join me in this endeavor. And so, yes, I'm so thrilled to have you here alongside. So without further ado, let's dive into the reflection of today's reflection question. And that is, what does self-esteem mean to you? What does self-esteem mean to you? This is one of those questions that tends to address our well-being. How are we doing in our mental space? How are we doing kind of like throughout our body? Hey, brother, I used to watch your videos months ago. I'm happy to be, you pop back on my For You page. Yay. I'm glad to have you back, my dear friend. Thank you for being here for a few moments, however long you can stay. So, what does self-love mean to you? Happy to see you finally got your podcast together. Yes. Self-love to me. Oh, yes, I like this question again because it gets us in that awareness piece. I start off with awareness. Awareness is a really important starting place for me because if we're not aware of what we're talking about, then we can't really talk about much with that knowledge that is necessary. The awareness brings knowledge. Awareness brings that element of we're in the know, if you will. And so that's a really important place to start, especially as we consider this question. If we're not aware of what's going on here in our minds, in our hearts, in our psyche, in the way we present ourselves, in the way that we are living life, we're kind of shooting in the dark, aren't we? We're shooting in the dark saying, I don't know what it means to be me. And so we make a lot of decisions that are uninformed, a lot of decisions that don't really align in the ways that we would want to see the alignment happening. So that's why I think this is a really important starting place. I also love that this one here is talking about a topic that most of us don't often think about. And when I think of this topic, self-love, think of the what's the word called? The pre-word, the self-love, the self parts to love. We're not talking about loving others. We're talking about loving ourselves. What does self-love mean? And it causes us to look inwards. It causes us to consider and say, hey, where am I at in the way that I see myself? And that makes number two of our pillars. The second pillar we have on this podcast is kindness, kindness to ourselves. We want to learn how to extend kindness to ourselves because often we don't do that. So kindness is a form of self-love. How do we show kindness to ourselves? How do we put ourselves in the subject category of our awareness and saying, hey, I am so worthy of love today. I'm so worthy of experiencing love. I'm so worthy of showing it to myself first. I'm so worthy of seeing myself in a really good light instead of the temptation to consider beating up on myself, which is what we often do. I'm not sure if you're like me, but I think so many of us struggle in this department, and we're filled not with self-love, but with self-hatred. self-loathing. When we see ourselves in the mirror, we just look at ourselves with disgust and say, man, I can't stand the person I've become. I can't stand being me. I can't stand what it means to be me. And so we have given ourselves these stories that denigrate our worth and bring our value down in significant ways. And that is to our detriment. That is to our loss. It's depleting in a royal way. And for many of us, we live a lifetime like this. We live a lifetime in this zone where we just don't have much patience or graciousness to say, hey, this is really important for me to start treating myself with honor, to start treating myself with dignity, to start giving myself the credibility that I'm so worthy of all of this, that I can show it to myself. So that's what I love about this one is we're talking specifically about what does self-love mean. For many of you might be thinking of this concept, showing love to self, and saying, that is completely foreign. I've never done that. I've never been taught to do that. I've never been encouraged to do that. And it seems kind of weird. It seems kind of out of place. Like that sounds so self-absorbed. Why would I want to just focus in and hone in and just show self-love to me? That like your mind sort of do a grinding of the gears when you even consider that concept that you could show your self-love. But that's why I'm happy we're talking about it today, because I want to encourage you to consider, what would that look like for you to affirm yourself? What would that look like for you to see yourself as worthwhile? Because I would love to show it to you. I love meeting people who have trouble seeing it. I want to help them believe and grow that they have that accessibility and the right to experience it. And that's really important for me as I watch these individuals struggle their way through it. But this is another really important point. Listen carefully. In showing ourselves love, in answering the question, what does self-love mean to us? I think the really important element here is to know that if it doesn't start off from you first and foremost, you're going to be in trouble in life in general. You're going to be in trouble in life in general, because if you're looking for your validation, if you're looking for your affirmation, if you're looking for your acceptance without you, like externally, if you're depending on those in your life, whether they're your peers, whether they're your like whoever it is that is outside of you, if you're looking for that kind of acceptance and affirmation of who you are and what you stand for, you are in essence putting handcuffs on the realization of how you could be set free, literally set free in life to be who you are in the way that you express. If you're looking for affirmation externally in someone else, in something else, the value that you're going to come to see yourself is always going to be in the power of someone else. What I'm encouraging you to consider in this question, what does self-love mean to you, is how can you take back that power for yourself? How can you take the assessment of your worth back from those whom you have empowered to say, you are the one that tells me how worthy I am? Now, there's different contexts in which we live this scenario. For many of us, we go to work. We go to work and someone gives us our assessment by way of saying, I'm going to buy into your services, buy into whatever it is that you're offering, and you're going to receive payment for that service or that product, whatever it looks like. And they're assessing the value based on how meaningful it is to them. So in that context, yes, you're definitely placing your interest and your value of whatever it is you're offering in someone else. But that's a different context from what I'm asking today. What does self-love mean to you? So as far as you're concerned, as far as your body, as far as who you are as a person, don't ever give that up. By all means, sell your services, sell your products. That's what it means to be in this economy, is to be able to offer something that someone else needs. But don't put yourself on that altar. Don't put yourself and say, hey, as I give you my services or my products, I'm also going to give you myself so that you can tell me if I'm worthwhile. Don't ever do that, my dear listener, because that's when you hand over that power that should be rightly yours. And for so many, we're stuck in this lifestyle, this frame of mind, whereby we've given ourselves on that altar to say, could you tell me that I'm worthwhile? This is where girls, I would suggest, struggle greatly from what I've observed. Girls struggle greatly when they present themselves, they do their makeup, they do all the things that they think will make them really attractive. But in essence, and I'm not saying this is all girls, but most girls, I think, may struggle this way where they present themselves to guys or whoever they're attracted to, and they say, am I worthwhile in your eyes now? That's what we do in relationships too, isn't it? Guys are going to try to do as best as they can to be accepted by their peers. And for guys, there's different ways in which that happens, and a lot of which is really toxic. And another topic that I'll touch on another day, not today, because today we're talking about what does self-love mean to you. And I'm arguing if you don't find this definition of self love within yourself first, if you're giving up that power of you giving your self worth and you're giving it to someone else, it's a devastating outcome where now you're dependent on someone else to tell you what your worth is. My interest and my passion, my design, my intention while I do these podcasts and connect with you guys is to say, how can I come alongside you so that you see your own value? I want to invest in you in such a way whereby you're growing in your ability to say, I am worthwhile. And I didn't need you, Benny, to tell me that. I mean, that's where it probably starts. It probably starts with that bit of a nudge, that bit of encouragement from the side from someone like me who is able to say to you, hey, right now where you are in your present context in life, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of your economic place in society, regardless of whatever else is an add-on to you, you are worthwhile. That's what I want to communicate. That's what I want to beat on this drum saying, hey, can you see your worth? Because if you don't see it for yourself, you're in so much trouble. It's really helpful to find safe people like myself and others in your life who are going to speak your worth into you and help build you up so that you're able to be that strong person who says, I go through life on my own terms. I'm not waiting for someone else to give me validation. I'm not waiting for someone else to say, hey, you're okay with me. You're saying, hey, that's all right. I'm glad I'm okay with you, but I wasn't looking for that. Let me give you a couple examples. On my Uber driver app, I've got a really high rating as a driver. After thousands of rides, it's a really big accomplishment. I'm really proud of it. I'm really thankful for the personality that I have that enables me to connect with people in meaningful ways. That's so important for me. But here's the thing. The ratings that people give me and saying, hey, you're doing great or you're not doing so great, that's an external validation. Even though I'm doing really well, I'm almost at a 5.0. I'm a 4.99 right now. That's an amazing, stellar feedback that I'm getting from many riders. Once upon a time, I would have been tempted to say, wow, I feel good about me because other people said I'm worthwhile. That's how I would have thought once upon a time. I don't think that way anymore. Now, the way I think is, hey, I'm glad that people think I'm great, but that is never going to come very close to the core of who Binyam is. When I think of Binyam, I'm like, hey, I'm already thrilled with who I am. And even if no one else in the world cared for me or didn't like me, if no one else in the world wanted to hang out with me, I would still be okay with my company. I would still be able to say from the starting point, here's my starting place. Binyam, as I look at myself in the mirror, I'd say, I'm doing really good. I like who I am. I like the values that I have. I like the commitments that I've made. I like the convictions that I have. Like these things that make me me, I'm so thrilled about. And when I start off with me saying, I love who I am already, I don't have to depend on other people saying, we like you too. But when they say it, I can say, thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me, but it wasn't what I was depending on in the first place. It's almost like you're filling up your own gas tank instead of having someone else fill it up for you. Does that make sense? When you go to a self-serve gas station, you're the one that has to get out, walk around, pay for it, and fill up your gas, right? That's you doing it. When you're at a full serve gas station, you drive in and you sit in the car and someone else comes and fills up your gas tank. I'm saying don't go to the full serve in life where people come and fill up your gas tank and that's how you get filled up. I'm saying go to the self serve in life where you are the one who's going around and actively filling your own tank up. That's really important. Fill up your own gas tank first, my dear listener. And then when others come and try to fill or add to your tank, it's already full because you're already full of yourself in a really appropriate way. And I think that's a really helpful progression. Does that make sense to your listeners? That's how I think through this element here. So, what does self love mean to me? For me, self love means this. Listen carefully. Self love to me means that first and foremost, I'm aware of who I am. If I'm not aware of who I am, I don't know what I'm loving. So, number one, grow aware of yourself. What makes you you? Why are you so distinctly unique in the 7 billion plus people in the world? Out of all those 7 billion people, what makes you uniquely you? Know what it is that makes you unique to yourself. Know yourself well enough so you're like, okay, I know how I tick now. I know what my amazing qualities are. I know what my challenges in life are. I know how I'm working towards being a better person or a better version of myself. That's a really important place to start. Does that make sense? First comes the awareness. Second comes the kindness towards yourself. That's the self love we're talking about. The kindness that says, hey, given where I'm at presently in this moment today, at this very point, regardless of what I've done yesterday, regardless of what I've said, regardless of the things that I'm struggling with, regardless of the things I feel guilty about, regardless of the shame, regardless of the anxiety, regardless of the worry, all those things that tempt us to think that we're not worthwhile, regardless of all those things that may challenge us in our perception of ourselves, starting with where we're at today, how can we show ourselves kindness saying, hey, I am so worthwhile today. I'm worthwhile experiencing love from me to me, that I am okay. I don't have to write myself off. Other people may say some awful things about me, but I don't believe it because inside of me, I'm okay that I'm this person today who's continuing to grow to the next level of who I want to be. That's a really important starting place. So, awareness first, and then the kindness that extends to yourself and saying, I am going to give myself the benefit of the doubt that today I'm going to do the best I can to become that person I want to be. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to strive for my goals. I'm going to work on what it looks like for me to grow in some characteristics that I really want to see in my life. For some of you, you are in a season of life where you've been beaten down, you've been discouraged, you have had others who are pouring like awful things into you. They say bad things about you. They remind you of how worthless you are. They speak into your context saying that no one's ever going to love you. They say things like you are good for nothing, like all those really harmful, toxic things that they are trying to feed you and put in your tank. I'm asking you today, are you able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I don't believe that story. That's what they're trying to tell me of my worth. I'm refusing that external proposal of my worth, and I'm going to see myself today both by way of awareness, saying, hey, I know what it is I struggle with, and I know what I'm amazing at, and I'm willing to show kindness by loving who I am today. It really starts at this threshold, my dear friends. And I would love to see you guys experience that as you're going forward. What does that look like for you to be able to say to yourself, hey, I'm worthwhile. I am I am an amazing specimen. And that really starts with the internal work that's necessary. I might say this as if it's that easy, but it's not that easy. Getting aware of yourself, getting aware of who you are and what makes you you, is a really, really big challenge. It's a huge challenge to know how you're made up. But the more you're able to know yourself, the more you're able to extend that kindness to yourself. What tends to happen is you start weaning yourself, you start pulling away from the dependence of external validation. You start pulling back from the expectation that others are going to define your worth for you. You're going to start going into the zone of saying, hey, regardless of what people are saying outside, I'm so aware of who I am and how I am okay with where I'm at today. That's a beautiful gift you can give to yourself. What better gift than to say to yourself, I'm okay today? And I didn't need to find my okayness in someone else. I started finding it in myself. So, yeah, I've got thousands of people in my life, thousands of people who've come and spoken some beautiful things by way of affirmation. For the longest time in my life, I depended on their inputs. I depended in such a way that you are, I love that. Love what you're saying right now, says my dear friend. You start believing you are more than capable. Absolutely. I resonate with that. I remember for the longest time, I was so dependent on the acceptance of others, and I was such a people pleaser that I knew how to watch a person carefully and then know what their expectations of me were, and then give them what I thought they expected from me. But in doing so, I just put my power in someone else's hands. And for the longest time, I was in that zone where I was like, if I disappoint them, I'm worthless. If I please them, then maybe there's hope for me. That's how I thought. No more. I don't believe that narrative anymore. Now, for me, it's more along the lines of how can I, first of all, see myself and say, I'm going to pursue what makes me happy. I'm going to pursue that by way of knowing who I am, fulfilling and executing and changing to be the person I want. And in the meantime, while I fumble my way to what I want to be, showing kindness to myself. When I'm able to do that, now I can hear people who, like you guys are so sweet. You guys are fantastic. Like my followers, um, sure, there are the haters, the handful of few of haters who will come and try to discourage me, but they're really wasting their time. And then there's this vast number of people who message me in my inbox and tell me what it has meant watching my content, watching me interact with people, hearing the kinds of things I'm talking about and saying. It has been a tremendous encouragement for so many. And that warms my heart. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm so thankful for that. This is my legacy. And I want to continue investing my legacy this way. But even as I acknowledge their kudos, even as I acknowledge their praise and their adoration and their love, which is, like I said, listen, guys, that is so meaningful, and I love it. Keep it coming. I get fuel just by receiving it, but I need you to know I never let it come to home base. Home base for me is a sacred place that only Biniam gets to speak into with any power. Home base is my heart, my mind, where I'm able to say to myself, Biniam, did you know that today you are amazing? And I'm not just saying it emptily. I'm just saying I am really amazing. I'm not boasting. Some people could take it as, oh man, you're just full of yourself. No, 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 no. I think it's something different where I'm saying to myself, knowing realistically where I am, I'm aware of myself. And secondly, I'm showing kindness to myself. And this leads to the last one where there's massive happiness as I reflect on my space, my mind, and my heart. There's massive happiness because I'm able to process and experience what really resonates with me. And that's a beautiful expression that I so value. It's like, I'm not letting this go. This is what I need, you know? And so I'm feeding myself on this rich, exquisite fare of self love that I'd never need to depend on someone else's assessment. I receive other people's assessment, but it only comes so far because I keep this zone as sacred for me. And that's what I would love for you guys. There is nothing wrong, I'm reading here, with loving and appreciating who you are as a person. Seems a lot more people, and the thought is going to be continued. Yeah, there's some people who feel really weird doing this. They feel really weird because they're like, this doesn't seem right that I would show myself love because I'm not sure if I am. It seems a lot more people need to learn to love themselves. I am on that amazing journey right now. I'm so thrilled. And you're like a new mom too, which is amazing because new moms sometimes struggle, don't you? Sometimes they struggle with their body, how their body is changing after a childbirth. They struggle with the way that they're trying to stretch themselves to attend to their families and how they're going to serve their families. And so I get it. And I'm so thrilled that you're in that zone. So kudos. That's amazing. I'm applauding you with tremendous happiness for you. So those are my thoughts, guys, on this topic. The question again we were asking is, what does self-love mean to you? I would say it needs to start off from within, not without externally, but within. What does that look like for you to start loving yourself from within and applying that to yourself and saying, hey, I'm a really, really great piece here. And as you are thinking about showing love to yourself from within, from who you are to yourself, remember the awareness piece, which is really important. Being aware of who you are takes a lot of work, but it's really important. It's really necessary for you to be so aware of what makes you you, So many people are scared about what that looks like when they look at themselves fully in the mirror and say, I don't know if I want to lift a hood on who I am, because there's a lot of scary things there that I have yet to process or deal with. I get it. Maybe you need some help on that. Can I share with you that it's not a bad thing to reach out to community? If you don't have community, if you don't have those safe people in your lives, send me a message, my dear listener. I would love to encourage you. I would love to speak into your context and say, I want to show you your worth. And sometimes we just need that bit of an assist. We just need that someone who's going to come alongside and say, here's the greatness that is in you. Here is the value that I see in you. It comes better from those who know you well and are safe people. But if you don't have those, like I said, reach out to me and I'll get to know you in a very quick sequence of time over a conversation, asking you some key questions, observing some things along the way. I'm very insightful that way, and I'd love to serve you in this way. So, what does self-love mean to you, my dear listener? I hope you're expressing it to yourself, because in the absence of it, we go in the opposite direction, plummeting into depression, plummeting into anxiety, plummeting into some awful headspace. I'd rather see you in a far happier place. This has been the Checkin In podcast, episode number 54. I am live streaming every morning around this time here. And Monday to Friday, I would love to see you come and join me again tomorrow for tomorrow's episode. Have a great Wednesday, my dear friends. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.